Sup, you've reached Clarissa. I'm out somewhere being da bomb and can't answer. My bad. Leave me your name, number, and a sweet message, and I'll hit you up later. Peace.
Hey, it's Amelia.
And Sherrick.
You told us to call and let you know what we're doing.
Weird, we get your voicemail almost every week at this point.
Oh well, I guess we'll leave you a message about what we're up to and our pop culture thoughts of the week, and hopefully we'll hear back from you soon.
It is almost like we have a podcast about engaging in our favorite childhood activities, and now we experience adult muscle pain.
That's too real. That's too real, Reductress. I'm calling you out, Sherrick.
So once upon a time, I used to do these literally just based off of stuff that was on my desk. But then I was like, well, the stuff that's on my desk is I've run out of things to talk about because it's all the same stuff that's on my desk. So now I lean into sites like The Onion and Reductress. So thank y'all. Appreciate it. Go check out reductress.com. Hilarious headlines. And sometimes there's articles behind them. So that's good.
Yeah.
So this week we have a lovely friend with us. First time visitor to the podcast. And we're
second time visitor.
What?
Second time visitor.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
listened
2
back to
years ago.
No, I'm just joking.
Oh.
It was a bit. I know Nicole's been here.
Oh,
thank God. I was like, what the fuck?
Okay. Sorry. Now I fucked up your intro. Sorry. Now I really messed it up.
No, you really didn't.
Okay.
It was really a dumb bit. It was really a dumb bit. Anyway, Nicole's here again. We're so excited to have you back.
Thank you.
How was everybody's week? If you want to talk about it, I'm going to start with me, I guess, because I'm the one that put it out in the universe. Normally, I'm just like, hey, Amelia, see you later. But yeah, so pretty low-key week for us. It snowed here again. But other than that, not too much. Blue's good. I'm good. Stufa's good. I'm weirdly excited about this dermatologist appointment I have next month. It's an adult thing that you walk into where you're like, I'm a kid and I'm really excited to grow up because then I don't have to do anything but eat candy and coffee all day. And then you're like, oh, wow, I really like that lawnmower I saw on sale at Ace Hardware. You're like, I'm 30 plus years old. No, but I've had like this weird like mole looking thing on my like right arm for the longest time. And it was relatively normal until the last couple of years, and now all of a sudden it's like flaking occasionally. Sorry if that's TMI.
No.
Kind of excited to see what that's all about. I'm pretty sure it's nothing serious, but
good for you, because I'm usually like in denial.
Oh, I was for a bit, and then like one day I just happened to like look down after I scratched my arm, and it was like bleeding a little bit, and I was like, well, that's never happened before.
Yeah.
So I actually like scratched like, the skin was so anyway, it's TMI. Anyway,
we are fragile beings now that we are over 30.
Life is fleeting, and we're using an increasingly archaic method to contact you from the future or the past. I don't know. How are things with you, Amelia?
Things are all right. Not much happened this week, I guess. Pretty normal week. Oh, like 6 weeks ago, I got a desk mate and someone to help me with my work, which was nice, but time consuming to teach them. And Thursday they were fired. So yeah, that's fun. Yep. So yeah, now it's just me again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. If I'm being honest, I wouldn't have picked this person. They were lacking some skills that would have been really nice to have.
They're lacking the skills that would have helped you pay your own bills.
Possibly. So yeah, so it was just kind of a shock. It was just more of a like, oh, what happened? But I don't know. Like I don't know. So yeah, that's fun, but
it's always feels like a weird thing to like, especially now in like work from home land. Like I think Amelia, you're hybrid. I know I'm fully work from home. Nicole, I know that you've got all sorts of stuff going on, but it's just very interesting, especially on like Microsoft Teams or Slack, or like I had a scenario a couple of weeks back where I was like, oh, I have a question about like submitting this thing as like a business expense that I'm doing. Like I'm basically doing voiceover work for the company. So I was like, yo, like what's the dealio about this? And I was like, oh, I know. I'll go contact Kyle. And I go like to start like typing in Kyle's name, and it's like deactivated account. And I'm like,
Oh,
was no one gonna tell me that they're just gone? Like they just Thanos snapped and they're just gone. It's just fucking no announcement. No, after several years with the company, I'm excited for my new adventure. Just deactivated Slack account. I was like, God,
it's wild. It is wild to me how like this stuff happens, and like because I do some of the like basic IT stuff, like setting up accounts and all of that, like I'm usually one of the first to know, because it's like this person is leaving or this person has gotten fired or whatever, and you need to deactivate their accounts. So, but then it's like, okay, when is everybody else gonna know? Because now I'm just sitting here like, this is awkward.
You have this knowledge that no one else does, and you're just like,
Yep. And I mean, I was in HR, I get it. I have lots of knowledge other people don't have, but particularly in this case, like, I'm waiting. For her not to be there the rest of the afternoon was not a big deal. But now this week, if they don't announce it pretty quickly, people are going to be like, hey, where is she? And I'll be like, I don't know. So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that was the most excitement I had in my week, I guess.
Aww.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, Nicole, would you like to tell us about anything that happened to you this week?
I'm trying to think. I think the two of you know this, but for the sake of explaining to the listening audience, I work part-time casually for the University of Minnesota in the standardized patient program, which is essentially medical acting. So med students, and we don't just work with med students, we work with the nursing program and nurse practitioner students and people who are practicing and doing like coming back in for continued education. But basically we help them practice their interpersonal skills. So anyway, so I was at the University of Minnesota this week doing some work with the learners, and I train other standardized patients. So doing some training, and yeah, it's good work. It's nice to be able to use my skills as an actor to benefit that population.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can I just say though, we should all get interpersonal training.
Yes. Can we all have continued education on interpersonal skills?
Yes, I think that would be very helpful for some people. Yeah, well, that's awesome.
Thanks.
So the reason Nicole is here is because she was recently, well, I don't know how recent, but a movie that she was in was recently premiered on Lifetime, and she's done a few other projects with them and other things, and so we thought we'd have her on and ask her questions and let her tell us all about the experience.
Thank you. I'm like super flattered that you all wanted to talk with me. Well, actually, this is a long con. I really just wanted to talk to Sherrick and Amelia, and I felt like the only way I could do that would be to do this movie.
Your ass up.
And then get you to invite me back on your podcast.
I'm so glad I get to be on one of you. I am so glad I got to be on the other side of this for once. Shut your ass up. I'm going to talk to you anytime.
I know. I'm like, you do have my phone number, right?
I
know. I have the phone number of a Lifetime star.
Oh, stop.
I have been telling a lot of people that I know in every single space. I'm like, yo, you Lifetime movie fan? I got a real good one for you. And I'm I tell them, and they're like, oh, real good. It sounds really awesome. I'm like, yeah, my friend's in it. And they're like, what? I'm like, no, just go see it. It's great.
The thing is that I really enjoyed it, so I feel like I don't even have to be like, yeah, you should see it.
Thank you.
So I don't know even where to start. Sherrick, do you have Anywhere you'd like to start?
I'd love to hear Nicole's take on the film itself before getting into any experience. So for those that are listening that don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the movie is called Crowdsource Murder. And if you are a regular Lifetime movie watcher, you might know that like a common storyline involves single moms being stalked, and this movie would be no exception to that.
Mhm.
Not maybe completely stalked, but
Mhm.
I play the single mom in this film whose teenage daughter has an injury, breaks her ankle, and it requires surgery, and she has all these medical bills that insurance is not going to cover. And her coworker is like, you should start a crowdsourcing campaign and, get some help with those bills. And my character's like, I don't know. And then I do it anyway, against my better judgment. This whole movie is about women going against their better judgment.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Lifetime. Trust your gut.
yes, that should be their new slogan. Trust your gut.
Mhm.
But essentially, one gentleman donor donates like the entire ask of my campaign out of the quote goodness of his heart.
Mhm.
And then things unravel from there. So I'll just
Mhm.
kind of leave it at that. But
Mhm.
yeah. I do hope that this movie has a cultural shelf life to it, in that I hope that people do not have to crowdsource for
Yeah.
medical bills, because unfortunately that is a very common thing that you see. It's awful. Your
Mhm.
bills,
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just wild. Our system should
Yeah.
not be like that.
Right. Yeah. When we were watching it, like I had anything to do with it, but there was a little premiere party, and as we were watching it, a lot of us were just like, this movie's really an indictment of the American medical system.
Yes, it is. It is a cry for help on
Mhm.
the best place possible, which is the Lifetime Movie Network, where
Mhm.
everybody
Mhm.
goes to check their values and ethics.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm. Absolutely.
100%. So yeah, so like, obviously we don't want to be Debbie Downers the entirety
No.
of the podcast, but it's, I mean, it does, like, I know that there's a bit of a, like, I won't call it a stigma because that gives a negative connotation towards Lifetime films, but there's like kind of, like that sense of like you said, like it tends to be like single mom getting stalked, or, they have to defend themselves from a guy. But
Yeah.
I just find it very interesting because sometimes films, they are a bit quote unquote behind the curve. They'll go, okay, well, we're going to do this film about like how this woman downloaded a song illegally, and then a guy came after him. It's like, well, okay, clearly you're talking about a film that happened between like 2004 and 2007.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
because it's like LimeWire, except it's not LimeWire.
Yeah.
But I think this particular film hits in a way because the two main themes to me feel very much like you said, they're kind of culturally ingrained. Like, well, obviously we hope that they have like a shelf life to them, but it's this idea that like if something bad, like you are one bad thing away from having to post a GoFundMe and being like,
Yeah.
hey, I got to do this thing, or like I'm knocking on wood as I say this because I know all three of us are pet owners, or like, hey, my pet's in a really bad way.
Mhm.
Like, and I can't cover the bills myself. Please, can somebody help? Or like,
Right.
they've got a friend that like the bills just ain't, like, there's too much month at the end of their money,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and they've got allergy medication, or their groceries are spoiled, or any of that kind of stuff. And it's like there's no sense of like, as a collective, I mean, I think the three of us feel this way, but like as a collective society, we should go, well, the government should be helping to take care of people like this. That is
Mhm.
why we pay taxes and
Mhm.
things of that nature. But
Right.
instead it's like, no, you just like basically just go to Twitter or Blue Sky and just like beg strangers for help,
Yep.
which like it warms your heart, but like at the same time, it's like it shouldn't have to be this way, like
Right.
you said.
Right.
And the other,
And
and go ahead. No, go
no,
ahead.
I was just to say, like, yeah, because you always see like headlines about like, all these people donated to this thing, or this kid helped a homeless person he met because everybody donated this money or whatever. And it is heartwarming in a sense, because like the community coming together to help somebody is nice, but like we could do it much more efficiently and cost effectively if we did it as like an entire community, meaning like the world or country or something. So yeah, it's like, think about how much money people have given to those things when like literally Elon Musk could pay for all of it.
And have offered, but because there isn't like a sense of like true ego validation to it, they have turned it down or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that I was going to talk about, and I think this is super, super prevalent, and I think that this is part of why like I'm not so sure it'll have that shelf life, is parasocial relationships.
Yeah.
You know, like whether it be like, well, I'm this person follows me on Blue Sky or Instagram, so we are friends, or like, bitch, I paid you, and I'm making a character here. Bitch, I paid you $50 on Twitch. You owe me this now. You know, like, which obviously in the film is like, this guy is like, I paid this thing for you. We should like, you know.
Yeah. Reciprocal relationship.
And it's like, no, like, dude, like it's so sad that it's like, there's this sense, because I hate the idea of parasocial relationships on one hand of being like, well, no, like I tend to have genuine like intentions, I guess, for lack of better words, when I'm like talking to somebody on the internet, and I'm not just like love bombing or anything like that, which it can obviously easily be construed with. But on the other hand of things, it's like, well, no, like, even though they are sharing these personal things with you, that does not necessarily mean that you are their friend, or that they owe you something as a result. And so it's so indicative of incel culture that, like, you know, like that's you know, thinking about this film, I was like, so hard. This smacks of dudes who can't like find a date otherwise. I don't know why I'm slowing this down to be clear about it. So they're like, oh, I paid you $500, or I paid you $1,400, or I paid you 14 grand. So clearly I'm into you. So like, you should just be thankful and you can give me a blowjob. You know, like, it's so fucking weird.
Well, and the thing is too, like, going back to the film in particular, is it's not that obvious. Like, from what I remember now, he doesn't come right out and say, like, I want you to date me, or you have to do these things. It's more insidious than that. It's more under the radar. So it's more just like, oh man, we live in the same like town. We should get together, and like, I care about you. So like, let me help you when other things come down the line after they've met and stuff like that. And so it's not as easy to just be like, no.
Well, and like, no tea, no shade to sex work at all. And I know that's not I know that's not where you were going, but I do just want to make that clear. If there is a mutual understanding and agreement that that is what the relationship is, that there is nothing wrong with that. But yes, you're exactly right, Amelia. When there's like an expectation, and that it's not a shared expectation on both sides, then things are incredibly unhealthy and unsafe.
That is 100%. Because like I said, sugar baby, sugar dad, sugar mom, sugar non-binary, go for it.
Yes.
If it's consenting, it's all cool with me. You know, not that you need my like my approval. You know, I'm like sitting in a rocking chair going, thumbs up, you're all good.
Right. Yeah.
But like, and like Amelia said, it's obviously much more insidious than that. And I just thought it was very telling, because it's like, that's usually how it is. It's like, they're on your like Fansly account or your OnlyFans account, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, I'm gonna be at such and such convention, and it's like an adult convention, and they're like, oh, how crazy that I just happened to be here, like, and I'm like your highest like dono, like, do you want to like go and get like a drink after this? And then all of a sudden they're like sending you packages in the mail, and you're like, hold on a second, I never told you my address. Like, it's like it can really accelerate really quickly. And that's so like, I said, it's so indicative of that incel culture where it's like, I saw you can tell I'm getting fired up. I saw a post on Reddit, which of course, and this was like maybe 5-6 years ago, and it was somebody being like, I drive an EV and I'm doing this great service for, I don't remember what it was, but the end of the title of the Reddit post was, I feel I deserve a girlfriend for this. And I was like, this is the most unwashed ass man like stuff that like I like come across, and I'm like, I'm terrified and I'm not even like the target. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, you can tell, like I said, you can tell I get fired up by this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, so let's talk about the film a little bit more piece by piece, and then we
Okay.
can get riled up, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess like it'd be interesting to like learn about how you got this part
Sure.
and about the filming of it.
Yeah.
And
Totally. I'll start with how I got this. So I do just want to preface this with, in this industry, there's really this idea that there's no direct path to, so I don't want to say success, but like there's really no direct path to making this career work. There's no like secret way. And
Mhm.
and just that you can't like copy what worked for one person is not going to work for everybody. And I say that as like an empowering idea, because I think so many of us want to know how to get where we want to go, and we want there to be like a clear way to do it,
Mhm.
And I feel like this experience really expanded my mind on that idea of like, I can't just be looking at other actors and how they've achieved certain things and trust that that's going to work for me. And so when it
Mhm.
doesn't work for me in a particular instance, I don't need to feel disheartened by that,
Mhm.
Mhm.
So all that to say that I booked this job through working with the director on a different film. So this past summer, I shot a different film that here in Minnesota, in Duluth, Minnesota, so up north, called Her Deadly Letters. And I had worked with this production company, Title One Productions, on the first Lifetime movie I did, which just came out this past October, which is Stalked by My Stepsister. So came back to do Her Deadly Letters, and we shot that in the summer in Duluth. And the lead is an actress named Brittany Underwood. She's also a director, and she's done quite a few Lifetime movies. She did 10 Years on One Life to Live. She has an incredible resume. She's an absolutely wonderful person. And she also directs. She's done quite a few films as director as well. And we worked together on Her Deadly Letters, and we had a couple of really great scenes together, and kind of got to know her a little bit. And on my last day on set was not her last day, but she was saying goodbye to me, and she was just asking if I could work in LA, and I was like, well, yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And she was like, I'm, basically saying like she hoped to work with me again, which was super nice, and at the
Yeah.
time, a lot of times I think just in general in life, people say nice things to you, and
Mhm.
it's hard to know if they mean it, you know what I
Right.
mean? And especially in an industry that
100%.
can often feel inauthentic. I'm finding a lot more I want to be clear. I'm finding a lot more authenticity than I think we expect in in our
Mhm.
industry. So I don't like want to sound negative about it at all, but I
Mhm.
think my industry has a tendency to have a reputation of inauthenticity.
Mhm.
Long story short, I was kind of doubtful, not because
Mhm.
of Brittany. She's like an incredibly sweet, nice person. And it wasn't that I felt like she wasn't being honest. It just was like, I don't know. I don't want to, you also don't try to hold on to things that people say to you, because if they don't work out, and I think this is any industry or any,
Mhm.
you know, situation in life, a lot of times, you don't want to be hurt if it doesn't happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of just like, I appreciated the kind words, and I kind of didn't think anything would come of it.
Mhm.
And then a couple of months later, she reached out to me and asked for my contact information so that the casting director for Crowdsource Murder could pass on the audition material and I could submit. And she wanted me to read for the lead, and it was because she wanted me in this film that it happened. And
That's
so
awesome.
you just never know.
Mhm.
You never know.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I went through the audition process, I wasn't given like any kind of special treatment or anything with that. So initial self-tape audition and feedback and a second round of taping. And I was truly not expecting, I try to stay grounded about, because again, it's like this industry, Sherrick, I know you totally get this. Like it's 90% rejection.
hmm
And that's just something we're used to. I think for people in our age bracket, especially, like if we've been doing this for 20 something years of our lives, or, somewhere in that ballpark, if you're still doing this, then you are comfortable with rejection. I mean, I say comfortable to an extent.
Yeah.
But if you're not, if you are burnt out on it, you're not going to do this anymore. Because it's like,
comfortable enough to keep doing it.
yeah.
Exactly.
Okay
Yeah.
enough with trusting that like what's meant for me is going to come. What's not meant for me it's okay that it's not. And at some point I'll be able to look back and say, that's why I couldn't book that job, because I needed to book this other job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I obviously don't say this to slight anyone that I like went to college with, but I know that like, as far as like my acting class was like a good 30, 40 people. And I only know like handful of us that are still like actively working in theater, here today. Granted, that was 14 years ago when we graduated, but like a good chunk of them packed up their things from Nebraska or Wisconsin or like wherever they came from to come to Wesleyan and went, I'm going to go to LA or I'm going to go to New York or I'm going to go to Chicago. And like, it's hard. It's 100% hard. And I'd say a good chunk of the stuff like you, Nicole, like the good chunk of the stuff that I've booked is because like someone was like, I really liked you in such and such, and I want to work with you now,
Yeah.
So it's definitely, there's definitely similar paths in that regard, but also like you never know when something will come up. It's like, there was a film that my part ended up getting cut from because it was just like an extra bit, but like I did like a pick and save now like Metro Market commercial here, and the guy that directed that was like, hey, I'm doing this film, do you want to be in it? And I was like, yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Like just sitting there in like a pick and save uniform. For those of you who don't know, that's a regional supermarket. But it just sometimes it comes out of nowhere. So yeah, absolutely can co-sign that.
Yeah. And I will say like, again, this is also not to like undercut anybody, but as a non-actor, it's a lot like that in job searching too now, particularly with the job market the way it's been the last few years of like being really overly competitive. So there was a time when rejection was part of it, but it wasn't quite to that extent. And I would say it's harder now. And so it's not the same, I understand that, but there's some like,
yeah, it challenges you.
Yeah, there's some similarities between like
it helps you see like what
then,
you really want. Like if you I think that totally translates to the workforce as well. Like you're going to keep getting rejected for XYZ. It's going to challenge you to determine whether or not this XYZ is what you want to keep going after or not. Yeah, I totally think that's the same.
Yeah, and when you were talking a little bit earlier about like your path isn't going to be the same as somebody else's path, like I find that to be very true in like all the different careers I've tried. Of like, oh, this person has reached success at a level beyond what I have, and they did it quicker than I did, and what was their secret, and like, all these kind of things. And it's like, it's not that easy. And yeah, I wish there was a step-by-step manual that you could just follow and like get to whatever it is. But yeah, you're right, it's not like that. And the idea that like a lot of opportunity comes from personal connections, networking and stuff is also like one of those things that's pretty true in a lot of areas. So I find that to be really like, I don't know, like comforting in a way that it's like we all are going through this shit in different ways. But yeah.
Good.
For sure. So yeah, so from there, obviously you booked the part.
Yeah. So
they brought you in. So go on.
yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. Basically, I got offered the role, and it was kind of a quick. Like we were gonna start filming. I want to say it was like I needed to be out in LA that Friday. I think it was Tuesday. I got offered the role, and out there on Friday for my wardrobe fitting,
Mm-hmm.
and then we started shooting that following Monday. I think it was. So. Yeah, it was a total whirlwind situation.
Mm-hmm.
But
and how long was the shoot?
we were on set for 12 days, and we had 3 days intermittently off over the course of that. So,
Gotcha. Yeah. I think that's one of the things that like you hear about with like Lifetime or other TV movies. It's just like the short shoot schedule.
yeah.
And in that sense, like it's to me it's like incredible like how much you can get done in that amount of time.
Yep, it's amazing.
So
yeah, the production company that did my film is just they really have this down to a science. Like it's amazing. I mean, we just wrapped in September. Like, and the movie released on January 25th. Like that is wild for as far as like post-production time. That so it's amazing. It's a well-oiled machine, and I was just really in awe of their system for sure.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how quickly they can like you said that, like some production companies can get it down to a science, especially if they like know what they want and they know where they want it to go. They're just like, we ain't got the time. we want to get this out so we can start working on the next one, you know. They are continuously moving, so that's really great to hear that it was, you know.
Yeah.
Anything interesting or like very memorable about the shoot that you want to talk about or anything? I don't know.
I mean, I worked with so many incredible actors. Like I had such an incredible time on set with my fellow cast members and the team, the production team, just like amazing professionals. It was an incredible experience. It was one of those things where I was just feeling like I wanted so desperately to just try to live in the moment of being on set for this. You know, I not to be negative. Like I try not to live in a, what am I trying to say? Like a mindset of there not being something. There's a term I'm trying to think of where basically you think like you're going to lose things that are never going to happen again. I try not to live. Yeah. I try not to live in that mindset of like scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
But there also, and I think this isn't just actors that go through this. I'm sure, Amelia, as you might pointed out, this exists in a number of paths, but like this idea that what if this is the last job I ever have? Like, and I don't like living in that, but it crosses my mind, it does. And not necessarily even that I was like, this might be the last thing I ever do, because I don't believe that to be true. But the experience of being the lead of a movie, of a Lifetime movie, like it feels so precious. It feels so like I feel so grateful. And so every minute being on set, I just like wanted so desperately to just soak it in, because it may not happen again. And I don't mean that negatively. I just mean that realistically, you know?
Yeah, I think it's such a fine line in life of trying to live in the moment and soak it all up and not worrying about like the future or what's coming next, or that that this experience is going to end. But those things are always still in the back of your mind, and so it's like, how do I enjoy this in the moment without worrying about what comes next, or that this will end eventually. Right. And then sometimes you get so caught up in that you can't enjoy it in the moment. So like that's when it tips to the other side. But I think like having a little bit of that, like, anxiety or whatever about things ending or what's next does make you appreciate things at least a little bit. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's one of those things that's like helpful to an extent, and then too much is unhelpful.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking while you're talking about that of like the last time that I worked at a theater company that I was like, well, I know that'll never happen again for several reasons. Like, number one, it's not around anymore, but like, when it was like, okay, well, I've hit this certain plateau as far as like just speaking as like an equity actor,
Yeah.
like where I'm like, well, unless they get unless they all of a sudden real quick come up with some good negotiations for equity, they're not going to, because like it was a thing where like right after, I would say, everyone kind of just assumed the pandemic is over, because I'm not going to be the one that says that, but like
Yeah.
it was kind of when like theaters were kind of going, okay, well, people are feeling comfortable coming back to in-person live theater again. They were like, would you love to come and do this? And I was like, yes, that sounds like a great project. Can you reach out to equity? And they're like, oh, we didn't know you were equity. And at that point I was like, oh, okay, that might be the last time that I work at this company. Not because I don't want to, but like it's it's kind of like the opposite, like the reverse thinking of what you said. It was like it hit me then, going, oh, that's over now, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it's
You've leveled up.
in some ways, but it's like it was very like I was joking with Steph when after I signed my equity contract, because I was like 3 or 4 people came out of the woodwork being like, hey, do you want to do this thing? And I was like, y'all had years,
Right? Yep.
Now all of a sudden it's like you just like smelled something in the air and you were like, hey, let's call Sherrick up. It's like, no, you can't. You can't now, because y'all don't hire equity people, so I can't work with you unless you sign it, unless you do something.
Yeah.
Get one of those special waivers or something like that.
That's a whole nother freaking topic, but that's exactly it, Sherrick. I wish more theaters understood that it is possible to hire us when we're equity. It is possible. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be like this. I don't know. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Right. But you can hear it. You can hear it almost like in the email or in the phone call when you say, "Oh, I'm equity now," and it's like, "Oh," and it's like, "Oh, you're not going to fight for that. Don't worry about it. It's all good."
Right. I know. Yeah.
So, tell us about your experience watching the movie.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
What? What, Sherrick?
I said you took my question. Fuck off.
Oh, that's such a great question. So I used to have a really hard time watching myself on camera, like I think a lot of that has to do with like I grew up doing theater, and theater was my first love, and theater is, is what I thought my whole career was going to be until 7 years ago, really. And you don't have to watch yourself in theater. And so
you can't unless somebody
generally
filmed it.
Yeah, and most of the time that's never a good idea. But I didn't have to watch myself, and now anyway, it used to be really hard to watch myself for like, if you hear your voice recorded for the first time, you're like, is that what I sound like? And now I know very well what I sound like. I've been doing this long enough.
It's my personal nightmare, but go on.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And I'm way more comfortable watching myself than I used to be. But there's always that critical brain that's on when I'm watching myself. And so I allowed myself to try to enjoy watching it as much as possible and like sit in the gratitude of it and like the awe of the experience. And I think the majority of my experience with watching it was like, this is amazing, and there were things I would go back and maybe change about my performance or whatever. I mean, I'm always going to be critiquing myself to some extent, but overall, I'm very happy with the film. I'm so, I don't know. But it's also weird. Like, it's super weird that this happened, that I did this, and like it's airing, and it's like it kind of feels surreal at the same time.
I will say that was my experience of watching you watch the movie, which I didn't do the whole time.
I know.
Saying it that way made it sound like I was just literally watching you watch the movie, which is not true. Being at the premiere that you were also at,
I would have 100% just had my eyes on Nicole the whole time.
I couldn't because the movie was too compelling.
I'm joking.
so
Obviously,
glad.
no, I wouldn't. Like, if I was watching it the second time, I'd have been like, I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, so it was just like that was the impression I got from you was like, this is weird, but I'm very grateful, and it's so exciting, and so grateful. I'm so grateful that all these people are here and enjoying it and stuff. So yeah, that and it is weird.
Yeah, I know.
It's weird for people who know you too.
Yeah.
Because
no
it's
kidding.
It's like, oh, I mean, again, I know you're an actor.
Yeah.
I've known that for a long time.
Yeah.
But like, you're on the screen.
Yeah, it's different. It makes it real.
Yeah.
My favorite, real quick, my favorite part about just this whole experience is like, number one, the poster. Like anytime, like that's like knowing that like your face is the face of this film essentially, but also like the fucking like fake Tinder and the find the funds like images. I want to be like, where did they Photoshop all of it? Like, just
art department was amazing. Yeah. I could talk for an hour about the art department. They were just stinking amazing. Like that you do not totally take for granted what art department does in any frame of anything. Every little tiny detail is so deeply thought out. I just have such an admiration. I'm taking us on a totally different tangent now, but like,
sorry, Amelia, I had to talk about it.
It's amazing. I know. Well, it ended up being Find a Funds. It was not originally Find a Funds. It had to be changed from, well, I don't think there's any reason not to say it was Fund Finder, and they changed it to Find a Funds in post. So audio, we do this, there's this thing called ADR, which is audio replacement, for those who don't know what that is. They go back and there might be like changes to lines, or there might have been a mic issue in a moment that needs to be re-recorded, or they want a better, that maybe the audio quality of the space wasn't what they needed, if there was like a plane or whatever. And Find a Funds got essentially dubbed in ADR. And what's funny is you can go back and watch, and there are some characters who say Find a Funds. If you look closely enough, they're actually saying Fund Finder, but you would have never caught that. Even though, like a lot of times with ADR, if they're replacing a line or they would maybe cut away from that person's face.
They usually cut away.
But it's close enough, it's similar enough that it works. Like, it's bizarre. But that was interesting.
Yeah, and you, like, when that first came up in the movie, you said that, like, out loud, like, oh, they changed it.
Yeah.
So you must not have had to do any ADR.
I didn't have to do. Again. I never said Fund Finder or Find a Funds or Fund Finder. I don't think.
So it was a surprise to you when seeing it for the first time.
Yeah.
And I found that really fun too, of like some of the behind the scenes like little things you would say during the movie. Well, it was like pop-up video kind of.
Yeah, totally. And Sherrick, you talked about this earlier when you were talking about like the commercial that you got caught out of, right? Was it a commercial?
It was a film.
Oh, okay. Yeah. This didn't even clock the night of when we watched it, Amelia, when it debuted, but there's a whole story arc that got cut. Oh. Like my brain was so overwhelmed. Like I was trying to take this whole thing in. And then when I watched it a second time with my best friend, I was like, wait a minute. Oh my, it like dawned on me that a whole romantic storyline got completely cut from the film. It had to be for time, and it makes sense that that's the thing they would cut, like in retrospect. And we hear all the time about things hitting the cutting room floor, and things being left out or having to go. But it's such a different experience when it happens to you, right, Sherrick? You're like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm
Yeah.
in so much of this film that it didn't necessarily affect me, other than it's strange to think that I will never see those scenes.
Mm.
That's where, for me as an actor, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to know what that looked like or how that played. Or, you know, my good friend Clark Moore played the detective, and it largely affected his role in the film
Mm.
as far as like how much of the film he was in. And so there's also the part of me that's like, oh, I'm sad for my friend. You know, I mean, he works a lot, and he was like, it happens. But still, I mean, you know, it's interesting to wrap your head around all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I did a Milwaukee Public Television, like, it was essentially like a play, but they recorded it to show on MPTV. This was like 2013, 2014.
Okay.
And I was essentially playing Joshua Glover, the slave that like basically went through Wisconsin to escape into Canada.
Okay.
And it like coincided with like the Lady Elgin, which is like the largest naval disaster on Lake Michigan. And I was like so jazzed about it. And again, they paid me and everything. And then I got a message from the director like 2 weeks later, and they were like, so MPTV cut that whole, like, it was like a 5-6 minute monologue at the beginning, and then they don't show me anymore. So it's like, that's it. So that whole thing got cut.
Oh my gosh. It's
And I was like,
heartbreaking.
oh, I mean, that's unfortunate, but like, it just framed the play so differently for me, even though it was just like, I was there because we did it live a couple of times in Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Oh, cool.
And then we recorded it. So I did get to like perform it more than just like that one time. But it was just like, the play feels so different, even though it's like this thing that just happened to coincide. And it just makes things, knowing that just frames it. You have a completely different experience of Crowdsource Murder now, knowing that like there are things that like you said or were in the script or that totally didn't make it. But
yeah.
To bring this to a more amusing bit, I remember back like TV shows in the 90s, they would tend to just like, well, we can't find David Schwimmer, and we need to do some ADR, so just get a guy that sounds like him. It's fine. Specifically with shows like Power Rangers, I remember a couple of times they would like redub Power Rangers episodes, and it's like, hold on a second, that's not Austin St. John, that's some random dude that they didn't credit. Anyway,
man.
So real.
I feel like they do that less, like that kind of thing, but I'm sure probably not never.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, I really liked this movie so much.
Thank you. It means a lot to me. I like it too. I'm really proud of it. Yeah.
I wouldn't say like I'm a big Lifetime movie fan. Like I've seen a few, but like it's not something I like go out of my way to watch generally.
Yeah.
So I didn't know too much about it, but yeah, I still really enjoyed it. And
thank you.
Sue got done dirty.
Not just because
I know.
So.
Sue, justice for Sue. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Off-screen deaths hurt me. They hurt me so hard.
Man.
Like, I get it,
I
but at the
know.
same
Tell me about
time,
it.
like,
yeah, that's always so sad. What was the thing that like got me so much? Oh, the like charity at the beginning. Just like sent me.
Sure.
I don't remember what it was, but it was like, oh, Monica raised so much money for the charity of horrible diseases or something like super generic, and it just sent me.
I know. I can't even think of what it is at this moment, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That opening boardroom scene. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and like, yeah, because your character, Monica, that's right?
Yes, that's correct.
Works for a nonprofit. And that, I think that was part of what I really enjoyed about the movie, was the way I could like critique
the reality. Yeah, totally. Oh yeah, totally.
Because having been in nonprofit for so long, I was like, you don't have more money to pay her, but you can have this giant building.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
There's just
I
like
know.
so
It's-
many things that just like,
See, that's the thing
And
that
it-
like go ahead, go finish your thought on me.
and like, it just like, it's not always needed. You know what I mean? Like some
yeah.
movies you need to have like it to be very, very real. This was not the point of this.
Yeah, we can
And
suspend our
so-
disbelief
right.
about
And
certain
so
things.
it was like, it was more just like entertaining
yeah.
to me,
Yeah.
of like things that nobody would have even like noticed probably
Yeah.
that I noticed. So yeah, I found super entertaining.
There's some people that can't though. I had a guy
Yeah.
for feeding Beatrice because I was playing a plumber.
Mhm.
I had a guy come up to me and he was like, you know, in your shoes as a plumber, I would have immediately I would have been immediately asked a million questions as to why he used cement and this and that and the other thing. And I'm like, the whole bit is that like he's desperately trying to distract me from this piss poor patch job that he did. And he
Mhm.
just wants me to do this other thing and not worry. Like he literally just wants me to come over there and do the job, shut the fuck up and leave. Like that's what he wants. And that's not what he gets. And that's the
Mhm.
bit. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I was very grateful for like his feedback, but I was like, I didn't write the play, sir.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where like it gets annoying, right?
Mhm.
Like that when it's somebody's own expertise or experience or whatever that like they know it's wrong and then they get all huffy about it. It's
Yeah.
like, did it matter to the plot? No. Then who cares? Like
Right.
if the thing is really important to the plot and they got it wrong, like that's a different story. But it's the
Yeah.
charity of rare diseases. That's what it is.
Mhm.
I was
Right.
like,
Yes,
I know
thank
I
you.
texted it to somebody.
Well, so your friend, my wife, Hannah, is a pediatric nurse. And I, at
Mhm.
one point, was like, Hannah, how did you ever watch Grey's Anatomy? How could you watch that and not just constantly be thinking about all the stuff that's wrong?
Mhm.
But, like, obviously, that show is captivating in so many other ways. But
Mhm.
I honestly, if you know you get worked up about things that you know too much about, then you just gotta avoid watching that material because
Well-
I feel that way about storylines or movies that are about actors
Oh yeah.
being actors. I don't like that stuff. I don't watch it.
Mm.
Is it
It's-
Smash that was like out in the early 2000s? Is that the show that was?
Yeah.
I
Was-
could never watch it. I
Same.
just because
Oh,
I just
yeah, I'm sure the way that they put together a Broadway show was completely not how you put together a real Broadway show.
it would have made me so mad to watch
Yeah.
that, so I didn't
And
watch it.
And not to call anybody out or anything,
Right,
but I
yeah.
know like Steph has said in the past, like she can't watch anything or hasn't enjoyed watching things about fashion in the
Yeah,
past.
yeah.
Like I remember when Ugly Betty started, I think we were in college or like right after, and she was
Oh,
like,
yeah, I
can't
was
watch it.
Mhm.
Can't
Fair
watch it.
enough. Fair enough.
And again, yeah, then it's like, okay, great. Like you get it that like this isn't for you. This doesn't
Mhm.
have to be for you.
hmm
Unlike
I just think
Yeah.
there's a special I think there's a special level of mad that I think Nicole and I both can share where it's like
I'm sure.
y'all are doing a movie or a TV show about actors acting. How are you fucking it up that badly? Like,
Right.
You've gone too far in the level of meta. Like you've made they're acting so well,
Yeah.
they're now acting poorly. Like what is happening?
Right. And you know this experience, so how are you getting it wrong? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you didn't ask any of the actors to fact check what they were
Right.
talking about, like from their
Right.
personal experience.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Overall, I felt like it was very well written. I really enjoyed it. The only thing that was the bee in my bonnet was Sue getting done dirty.
Oh,
But
Sue Forrester, man. Del Harrison, who played Sue Forrester, I loved working with everybody. I really, truly did. And
Mhm.
Del and I were, she was on set with me the very first day of shooting. We shot all of her scenes.
Oh,
So she
wow.
was only, she only shot for one day with us.
Wow.
And I loved working with her. I would love to work with her again. She's
Mhm.
also brilliant with stand-up. Like she does, if you're in LA, I would look her up and
Oh.
go see
Mhm.
her in a stand-up show that she's in. Find her on IMDb. She's awesome. But
Mhm.
yes, poor Sue.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and during the movie, we were joking about me and friends of the podcast JM, our lovely editor, and Jenny were sitting together, and we were commenting on it as it was going on. And when we like first meet Sue, and she's like immediately just like suspicious of the dude, and then we find out that she actually knows him and whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we were just like, of course the black lady is the one who knows what's going on.
I know. Yeah.
Yep. And I mean, like, it's a stereotype, but it's like, what a nice stereotype in a sense, like, of like, that you are more knowledgeable and know what's going on, because like, yeah, like, that's just, yeah.
I think this experience has kind of taught me that like maybe I should watch a few more Lifetime films, because like some people would probably look at this and go, it's a bit convoluted, but I'm like, no, like these details are all necessary because it fleshes out the characters, you know, like you don't necessarily, I feel like, get the struggle of somebody who works at a nonprofit and then has to basically crowdsource assistance for something that is like kind of a very, well, not kind of, it's very much a personal family thing. Like you want to be able to make the, like, you don't get it as a single parent. Like I'm not a single parent. I'm not a parent at all, but like, I can imagine a lot of people that are parents or even single parents that watched this related very much to Monica, in the sense of like, okay, well, he's out of the picture. The other guy, like the other parent is out of the picture, more or less. Like I will take the child over there occasionally, but I'm kind of the one that's making sure that things, you know, work out.
Right.
And now I have to like handle this thing, and I want to do it for me. I don't want necessarily for them to help.
Right.
So, you know, there's stuff like that I'm just like, films for people who go, oh, so here's context that you need to know before I tell this story.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and like making sure those details are in there, because like having the detail of asking for a raise and them saying we can't afford it is like, A, you didn't get the raise, so you're in need of money, and B, like, it's a nonprofit, so the answer is almost always like, we can't afford it.
Right.
Not just we can't give you a raise because of such and such. Like, it's still, there's still a level of detail that like
and it sets
needed.
Noah up. It sets Noah up perfectly to be that person that is going to prey on you, because it's like, you're obviously in a poor situation, and he can solve the problem like that. Like he can snap his fingers and just give you 25 grand. Like it's not a problem for him, you know, like it is, I think, kind of a, I don't want to speak for either of you, but I feel like if all of a sudden we got a gig that was like, this pays, you know, $1.5 million, so you can just go, hey, I'm just going to give somebody $1,000 that I care about. I'm sure you would want to be able to do that. And there's that other side of things where it's like, okay, well, this person just gave me $25,000. Now I have this huge expectation on my heart of like, I don't know how to thank them for that. And like, it's easily preyed on, because he can go, oh, like we can just get coffee, or like, now we can just go to dinner, and like, oh my God, we have a lot in common. And like, that's always going to be, especially when it's like a femme presenting person being given something huge, it's always like that alarm bell going off in the back of the head. I can only assume like that's going to be a thing to worry about. So I just thought it was all very important.
And then also simultaneously balancing that with like, I don't want to come across as ungrateful. Like I don't want, you know, I don't want to assume ill intent. There's this, for femme presenting people, this idea that like, you know, we're kind of raised to just be polite all the time, you know, like My Favorite Murder, I love their slogan, like fuck politeness. But that's what it's so hard to go against that, you know, when you're raised to like, just be nice and say thank you. And, but also you've got your hackles up a little bit that this feels wrong, but I don't want to be rude, and I don't want to assume the wrong thing. Oh my gosh, what if I assume ill intent and he's truly kind? Like, then I'm the jerk. I'm the bad person, because this man's just doing something out of the goodness of his heart, and I'm ungrateful, you know?
Yeah. When statistically, it's like the fact that I assumed ill intent is because it happens enough that I have to.
True.
I have to. And so, but I'm the asshole if I assume ill intent and there is none.
Exactly.
Right.
Rather than
It's a gamble.
the societal structure.
Yeah.
It's a gamble. And it's like on one end it could be your life.
Mhm.
And on the other hand, it's like, well, you can like Noah in this scenario has so much power because
Mhm.
if he's truly a manipulator, if you had more time to tell this kind of a story, you could go, well, I don't want to date you. And he goes, whoa, 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 whoa.
Mm-hmm.
That
Where did
wasn't
you
even
get
on
that?
the table.
Yeah, the gaslighting. Yeah.
What is
Mhm.
Yeah, like it's like a gaslighting situation where all of a sudden public perception goes, well, look at this woman who got 25 grand from this very nice guy and won't even go out on a date with him without
Right.
It's like, oh my God, like it's.
And I think it was so important to then have the other woman, whose name I can't remember. Charlotte, like his ex, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that showed, by meeting her and hearing her story, it was like, okay, this is something he does.
Right.
Like, this isn't a one-off. This is a thing that he does.
Mm-hmm.
It manipulates people and expects them to do what he wants and blah, blah, blah. And like, what a real narrative to then have her be like, but I can't help you because I'm scared of what.
Yeah, because he's already ruined me. He's ruined
Right.
my career. I've had to move from my home. Like all of these very scary.
Mm-hmm.
And then my character has a daughter to be concerned about,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah.
Right. And so it's just like, it's such a good way of showing that, like,
yeah,
this is why manipulators continue to manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't just say that it's like, because no one stopped them. Like, it's not on them.
Right.
Like, there needs to be better structures in place to protect people when they.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and he says, like, toward the end of the film, oh, nobody's going to believe you, like, who's going to believe you over me? And how often is that something that, whether it's true or not, that somebody would go like, oh my, would start to doubt whether or not they could do anything about it.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of whataboutisms that get thrown around. Like if Twitter was like an element in this movie, oh my fucking God. It just would have been a mess. Anyway, the guy who played Noah, James Hyde, that look at the end of the film, I think, just gonna stick with me for a while because he just looks.
Yeah.
He looks like he's mad about being arrested, but he still has to look attractive. So like,
he's a beautiful man inside and out. He really is. He's the perfect person for
from
this.
The character here, like I'm just because like he's just like I'm just mad. But
that's wonderful that he is an amazing person, because if I ever see his face again, I'm going to throw my computer or my screen out a window.
I know. He really is a good person.
It's so funny because, like, obviously that is such a compliment, right? Like, that, like, the sight of him makes me angry.
Yeah, he did his job well,
totally. Right?
Totally.
Okay, but, like, I was listening to this interview the other day with somebody who was on One Tree Hill. Okay. You don't have to have watched it to understand this, but basically the villain. And talking about, like, how difficult it was to be hated, essentially, by America. Like, hated by everybody who was familiar with the show.
Right.
And, like, how much that, like, affected his mental health and stuff during the course of that show. And it was just, like, I felt, like, so bad, but I also was like, but you were so good at it.
Yeah.
But it was just so interesting to, like, see him do this interview, because it was like, oh, you're actually, like, a really sensitive, like, caring individual. You're not like your character at all. But I think if I had seen that if he'd done that interview during the show or, like, right after it, it would have been so much harder for me to like the cognitive dissonance of
Yeah.
it would have been so much harder, whereas now he looks different
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And so it's just, I don't know, it just struck me as so interesting that, like, you did your job well, which is great, but also, like, it really affected you.
Right.
And so, yeah, that
It's
can't
interesting
be
to think about
easy.
how that affects people's future castability for certain
Mhm.
things too, because you can
Mhm.
so easily get pigeonholed as the
Mhm.
villain, or
Mhm.
she's doing all right, but Flo from Progressive,
Oh,
she's
yeah.
having a really
Yeah.
great career, but I'm sure that has affected her castability in certain ways.
Oh, yeah.
Or, oh gosh, I'm so terrible. The woman who, as a child, she did horror film, infamous horror film. I'm so bad with names. And she's possessed.
Oh, Linda Blair from The
Yes.
Exorcist?
Oh my gosh, how could I not remember? The Exorcist documentary, people have not watched it. It's fascinating. It was done in done in the 90s. This is an old documentary, but it is
Mm-hmm.
fascinating. Interviews from the cast and the crew and the writer of the original script.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Linda Blair, that really affected, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
in many ways, but like her castability for anything other than horror, I think, for many, many
Mhm.
years of her life. I don't know, just interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is super interesting the way that, like, some people have been able to
Get around that?
get around
Yeah.
it, or to make a career out of it and
Yeah.
be fine with that.
Yeah.
Or,
Mhm.
like, you know,
It can go any number of ways, I guess.
yeah, it can go so many ways for sure. And yeah, it's just interesting to think about.
Not to make this about me, but
Please do. Please do.
I was joking with somebody because the last 3 first stage shows that I've done, I've been cast as a father figure, and the character's name is typically Dad or Daddy.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "So I can call you Daddy now?" And I was like, "Absolutely, you cannot." But it's like this bit, like from doing, Coles Wild Theater for so long. It was like, well, we really only see you as like late teens, early 20s kind of a person,
Mhm.
because you were playing these younger characters, and it's like, okay,
Mhm.
well, I was 24 to 30 at the time or whatever, so
Mm-hmm.
like
Which is,
had to
high
make
school
sense.
age when you're an
Right.
actor. So.
Yeah, when you
totally.
I guess basically, especially if you're a black actor, but that's neither here nor there. But like I guess I just find it fascinating how, because I've only directed a couple of times in my career, so like I wouldn't consider myself like any sort of like casting expert or anything like that, but just like, or like getting an audition for like a police officer, and I'm like, I'm 5'8", 190, bro. Like, I don't think you're gonna cast me as like a lead cop. I just don't get it. So it's just fascinating to me to see how that kind of shakes out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
I mean, how did you feel playing a dad? I feel like it's super weird to play a parent when you're not a parent, from my personal experience. But how did that feel for you?
yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's a weird feeling. Not to say that like I'm not grateful for it at all. Like,
Sure,
I
yeah.
always want to be positive, and in case, because you're always auditioning, and
Mhm.
it's definitely a weird feeling, especially when like you, as a cast, you bond. So
Yeah.
like, I don't ever want to think of myself as like their second dad or anything
Right.
like that. But like, it's very interesting to basically be like,
Mhm.
well, this person is playing my child.
Yeah.
But
Like,
at the same time, like, no, you're not their second dad necessarily. I mean, I think sometimes that sort of
oh,
relationship
see,
happens when you're like,
but kids will joke about that shit. That's what
well,
I mean.
right. But what
They'll
I
be
was
like,
gonna say
"Hi,
is
Dad,"
like,
and I'm like, no.
you maybe like don't actually fill that role, but just by being older
Yeah.
and an adult, like they do look up to you, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So whether or not you're cast as their dad or just another adult in the show or whatever, they're still kind of looking at you that way, at least for that period of time.
Yeah, sure. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but the feeling is still kind of weird.
Oh,
if that
for
makes
sure.
sense. So it's like,
I definitely understand that for
Mhm.
sure.
Was this is not the first time that you've played a parent on?
No, I played a parent. Well, it hasn't come out yet, but I play a parent in Her Deadly Letters, which is the movie I met Brittany Underwood doing.
Mhm.
I don't know if I said this. She was the lead in that
Mm.
film.
Okay.
Anyway, And then I get mom a lot for commercial work. Like all the time I'm playing a mom, which is just weird. I know. I mean, I totally can be. I could be. I get it. But that's so,
Well,
it's so weird to, I
don't
don't
ask
see
me to
myself that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, and because that was a question I was going to ask, you reminded me now, is like, not only did you play a mom in this movie, but you played a mom to a teenager.
I know. And
so, like, how did that feel?
I was like, really? Are you sure? No. I mean, you know, it's like, I could technically be, you know? It definitely felt, it does feel weird on like a personal level. I mean, not in a way that it feels like I can't do this. No, it's just, I'm too method for this and it's just so unrealistic. I mean, no, please cast me as a mom. I will take the job, you know?
Yeah,
But
same.
it's just, it is weird to like, I don't know. I don't know if this is something a lot of actors go through, but like these different stages in our lives where like you're used to being seen as this one thing and then you either age out of that or people, you just have this natural essence as like, for instance, my friend Clark Moore, you were talking about playing detective Sherrick. Clark, who plays the detective in this film, he gets police officer and detective all the time. And it's just like this essence that he gives off. And he's not that. He's like nowhere near that in real life. And he's like, I just, and it's,
you portray it well
gives
enough
me the
and-
work. It just like, you know, but it's just, it's so weird to like accept some of those things sometimes. And it's like, really? The rest of the world sees me as XYZ and I don't identify with that in any way, shape, or form. It's just, it can be kind of a mind fuck, you know?
Well, and I think too that like the age of women in particular in Hollywood and acting and stuff like that is such a contentious thing that like you know, a 26-year-old actress is considered like too old for the 40-year-old lead of the movie or whatever as a romantic thing, like some of those kind of things that we know happen. And so it's like, okay, I've until I'm 30, I can be a high school student, but then all of a sudden I'm a mom of a teenager.
There's
like,
no in
I
between.
just go from this to this, and then as soon as I hit 45, I'm a grandma or whatever. Like, so it just like, it doesn't age as you age necessarily.
Right. I have two thoughts on that. The first being that, you know, I do think we're moving in the better direction of that not being such an ever-present reality. Like, I do think we are, you know, and I think this movie is proof, like, a character in her mid to late 30s of a woman is the main character of this storyline. And yes, it does have an element about it where it has a lot to do with her being a mom, but that's not, she's a fully developed character too, with a career, with, you know, interests. And I really appreciate that. And then also, secondly, a lot of blockbuster films, we are still seeing like these silver-haired, older, beautiful, aging male actors who have wives who are 20 years younger than them. And that drives me insane. Why don't we should be seeing more of the opposite, or casting women closer to these. Yeah. Why aren't we giving these older actresses?
It's an ego thing.
Yeah. And there have been some, and there's some, in some ways getting better, but there's still a lot of those. And so, yeah, it's interesting to like watch like what age you're considered as an actor.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
Like 16 to 28 to 40 or something, you know, like.
Yeah.
But
it's a fascinating profession. I'll say that much, you know?
Yeah, I would agree.
And I think sometimes, for me specifically, I don't know if you feel this way, Nicole, I think sometimes it's hard to like, you feel like you are niched, and then you're like, okay, well, do I lean into that or do I not lean into that? Because that can also determine like what kind of work are you going to get, you know?
Right.
Like if I lean into being a children's theater actor, is, you know, this theater company in Seattle going to take me seriously when I'm like, oh no, I want to be a part of this like horror drama that like
Mhm.
you're putting up? Or are they just going to go, all the stuff on your resume is children's theater? Like, okay, you know,
Yeah.
or the opposite, like, okay, well, can you really do Seussical? Because like all I see here is you done
Yeah.
Shakespeare, like you know,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
so
That's a good point.
give us a chance. Anyway, that's my
I know. We're actors for a reason. We can do anything.
Well, as I said to Sherrick yesterday, that when I make all my millions, I'm going to open up a theater and he's going to be in every show.
Yes.
And I'll cast you in every show too.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Even if you just cast Sherrick in every show, that
Yeah.
you will be doing the world a tremendous service.
I know. He's like, they're going to get tired of me. People are going to get upset.
No.
Okay, so
And I was like, A, no,
No.
because no. And B, like, I
no,
don't
because
think,
no.
and B, because like Jenny was in the chat too, and we were both saying this, that like there are local actors that we've seen in a lot of things. And yeah, I mean, I know that there are lots of people who could do those roles, and so like that's where it gets frustrating, I'm sure. But at the same time, it's like, I've loved that person and everything I've seen of them. So you know what? Like, I'm not mad at how much they're getting cast.
For context, I was talking about an actor at a theater company who, like, I was like, I jokingly was like, he must have blackmail photos for like the artistic director, because for like 7-8 years it would be like every major show they would do, he was either the lead or he was like very close to the lead, so he got like the most stage time.
Gotcha.
And it was like, and obviously I don't think that particular detail came out in the conversation, but it was like, I would go and see, like, I'm going to use the name Kyle again because that's like my go-to. Like, I would go and see a show and it'd be like featuring Kyle Smith, and I'm like, okay, well, he's probably, it's like a thing too where it's like
sleeping with,
well, the thing too with this particular actor is like, I felt like they didn't necessarily change who, like, it was always Kyle Smith as the plumber, or Kyle Smith as, like, it was never like, I'm going to become this character. It was like, hey, I'm Kyle on stage again, you know? And so like, finally they stopped, like, you would like, they kind of like stopped openly advertising that he was in the show, but then they would sneak him in. So it was like, cool, okay,
weird.
I can go and see this show. And then he'd show up as like the pizza guy, and you're like, what the fuck? I don't want to see you anymore, Kyle. I don't want to see you anymore.
So it wasn't even that like he was drawing audience because everybody looked forward to seeing him in everything, but like more that the theater company was trying to prank the community by sneaking him in.
No, I don't think it was necessarily that. That's hilarious though. No, I think it was more the first than the second, if anything. But like, I just was like, okay, I just don't get it with Kyle, man. He's like, it's not for me. And
of course,
and I don't want to be somebody's Kyle Smith. Like,
if somebody shows up in like everything and they're not great, or they're really good at one thing,
my personal opinion,
but not other things, or like whatever. If it doesn't work every time, then that's like a problem.
Right.
So I would just pick shows that you could do.
I would love to hear these shows, because
I don't know what they are yet.
I've had short conversations with Nicole before, but I also feel like I'm like not a very good like theater actor, and that I don't know a lot of shows. So I'm like, I see it and I'm like, I don't know if I'd be good in this. I'll audition. What the fuck? I don't know.
I wouldn't necessarily only do famous shows.
I'm saying I don't know very much, like, in general, as far as like you know, like, I learned about Kirsten Greenwich, and I'm like, hey, all of her stuff sounds good to me, but I had never heard of Feeding Beatrice before I was asked to do Feeding Beatrice. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, and I don't know a lot of people that are like, that is my jam. Like, I know that there are other shows that plays that she's written that like people know better, but like, my point is that I'm like, I don't fucking know what to audition for, man. I just go on the Equity website every once in a while, and I'm just like,
everything.
Please.
It's a numbers game.
That is true. It is a numbers game, and honestly, like, I think we do ourselves a huge disservice when we try to decide for ourselves whether we're right for something sometimes. Like before even
That's fair.
putting our hat in the ring, we're already, and I do that. I mean, I should be giving this as advice to myself because I still do it. It's very easy for me to say to everyone else, but like
Mhm.
I am still really quick to be like, they're never going to cast me in that. I mean, I
And
definitely,
this is so. Oh, go
yeah.
ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I definitely felt that way about this. Oh, they're never going to cast me in this, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And that is so true of job interviews too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That like so many people talk themselves out of applying for jobs because they're not 100% qualified based on the job description, or they think they can't do it, and like there's a gender issue with that as well that I won't get into, but you never know. You just never know.
Yeah.
Like what they're looking for, what you're gonna bring to the table.
Yeah.
Like
my wife loves to say to me, it's not your decision to make. It's not your decision to make.
Yes.
Yeah. With that being said, I hear you, Sherrick, in that like I also wouldn't want a career where I was given anything and everything regardless of whether I am truly right for something. I want to know that there's merit behind me being selected.
Yeah.
You know, I want to feel like I'm once I'm cast, I want to be able to buy in that I am right for this.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I feel like I'm not, you know, it's hard to like, I don't know.
No,
that makes sense.
That's that, and like I will say, like I'm very grateful for the artistic directors and stuff that reach out and say, "Hey, do you want to do this show?"
Yeah.
Because even in those, it still feels like, "Hey, we thought of you for this particular part," and not just like Sherrick is great, putting him in everything, you know, like because I'm never gonna be everyone's cup of tea, you know, like
none of us are,
and none of us are, and so like. I know, and this isn't obviously to call Amelia out because I know that like this was a joke scenario, only in the sense of like, she's like, if I get a bunch of money, I'm gonna open up a theater. It's like if Amelia opens a theater and wants me to be a part of it, aces. But like, I don't think Amelia is actually going to cast me in literally everything, you know. So like, but I was taking it a little bit too seriously. So that is what that is.
I mean. I don't know what you're talking about. I was not joking.
I do think every community has actors in it that do, you know, regularly get cast in work that they're not always right for, and that doesn't mean they're not wonderful actors or whatever. But I think there is that in every community, and I don't ever want to be that person that people are thinking like, again, you know, like, I don't want that. It doesn't feel fulfilling.
This is what I will say about the idea of eventually making a lot of money and opening a theater, okay? I saw this thing that was like talking about like fiction. So it was like, big fan of marriages of convenience. Marry your best friend for taxes. Marry your roommate for college tuition breaks. Marry your love interest for plot contrived reasons at a fake wedding, then accidentally fall in love and get married for real in the epilogue. So many possibilities. Hashtag get married to further the joke. Your commitment is not to each other, but to further the bit.
I love that.
And I was like, that's me. My commitment is to the bit.
Yeah. So now you have to follow through.
Yeah.
Amelia, you have to finish the bit.
Right. So if I make millions, I have to commit to the bit.
I love it.
Very funny.
Yeah.
Very funny. Well, Nicole, is there anything else that you want to say about the experience or about the movie as a whole, or just, you know, life lessons from your friendly neighborhood, Nicole Weber?
Life lessons. Nothing. I think just in general, to everybody, regardless of your profession, but especially if you're an actor, nothing is too far out of your reach. And, you know, I think build a community of people around you that are like-minded and see where that leads you. Yeah, I feel like that's the wisdom I have to offer today.
I love that.
Vague as it might be, I don't know.
No, I think that's very applicable. That like, there's a lot there's a lot you can do to get to those things that you, and to find things along the way that you didn't know you wanted.
Totally.
True.
So
That's so true.
You know what I want, though? I want someone to make up a theme song for this, because this is Amelia and Nicole. What the fuck is this? That is my smooth transition into the other part of the thing that we're doing today.
It's the bit.
Yeah,
You're committed to the bit.
I do commit to this bit specifically. So this is the part of the phone call podcast, whatever you want to call it, where I find something wild and crazy kids, and then I show it to Amelia normally, but Nicole is here also. So you're both going to get to experience it. So there's a lovely little link in there. Go ahead. And I'm just going to stop talking, and then you can experience it. And when you're both ready, you can describe what you see.
Okay, I have it put in there, and I haven't hit return yet. Are we ready, Amelia?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're looking at it already, probably.
No.
Oh, okay.
It hasn't started.
Oh.
Because I was waiting for it the sound to come up.
Oh! Oh my gosh.
What the? Oh, there we go.
Oh my gosh, is that person okay?
Sorry, I'm just looking at like your response and Amelia's response, and they're like so different.
Are we seeing the same thing?
Are we seeing the same thing?
I would hope
I'm
so.
seeing a guy like
slam into
a bunch of mats.
It looks terrible. Is he okay? Okay.
Because I think in your mind you're thinking like that looks really painful. And
Yes.
I'm just like, oh, he's crashing into a mat. Whatever.
Okay, I think what comes to mind, I don't remember the context to this, but there was a video of somebody jumping into a foam, like the huge cubes of foam thing, and she literally broke her back. And so now,
this happened at TwitchCon.
Okay.
Oh.
And so now, every time I see anything in a gym, I'm like, that person's paralyzed.
To be
So
fair, that
my immediate thought is this
that
gentleman
happened at a
is
convention,
paralyzed.
but no.
Okay.
So yeah,
we have a pretty like standard rule that like if somebody is majorly hurt, Sherrick's not going to show it to me.
Okay.
Because that's not, I don't consider that funny.
Okay.
And not that these always have to be funny.
I should have warned you, my bad.
They don't always have to be funny, but they have to be shocking. And if the shock is that they're dead, that's not.
No, I'm sorry. I did not that I assumed he was alive, but was like, I don't know.
It was very funny just because Nicole was like, oh, and Amelia's just like face didn't change.
I was just like, okay. Cool. And I think partly because you reacted first, and so I was waiting for something bad to happen, and I was just like, what?
Are we watching the same video?
Yeah.
This exact video is why I have no business being a parent. Okay? Because everything a child in my life would do, I'd be afraid they were injured, and I don't want to put that pressure on any child.
It's okay. Just in case I did. And this is a rare one. I do have a second one for you.
Oh, good. So that so JM can edit out the first one.
No. I was like, honest and for truly. So normally the way I do this is that I will like message like Nicole. I'll message Amelia and be like, so I'll just give her part of the file name so I can find it easy. I'll say this one or this one, and then Amelia.
Yeah, it's usually like a string of numbers and letters or something from like the file name, so I don't know what I'm picking. I'm just picking a random whatever.
But this time I was like, these are both great, so I'm showing them both to you. It's a double whammy. So the link has changed. Go ahead and
okay.
I was waiting for a second one, but I got it. You changed it. Sneaky. Oh no. Oh, what's gonna happen?
Okay. That's great.
Oh my god, so good.
All right, well now you have to explain both of them.
That's so good.
I love that shit.
That's so funny.
It's a guy wiping down his TV, removing the smudges from his TV as I believe that is Shawn Mendes?
I think so.
A singer, singing on the TV, a music video, I assume. And at the end of it, the guy pulls back with his rag and just kind of like whips it and it looks like it hits the gentleman in the face.
Yeah, I love it.
I love this shit. I see this all the time where, like, a cat is sitting in front of a TV and, like, somebody will, it's like soccer or whatever, and, like, will kick the ball and it'll look like the cat is, like, reaching out to, like, stop it in the
Yes.
goal, or, like, I just love it when that stuff happens so well, and just, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a great transition. It's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Those are both courtesy of TikTok, but unfortunately, I think the tags have been stripped from them. So one of them, the first one has its tags, the second one does not. But you'll see both of those on our Instagram. I promise I'll catch up.
I love it.
So anyway, Nicole, would you like to tell people where they can find you, or like if they want to get in? You want
Yeah.
to cast you in things because you're great and awesome.
Oh,
Like
thank
how they can
you.
do that.
Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram at Nicole Savick Weber. Savick is S-A-V as in Victor, I-C-K, Weber, W-E-1-B-E-R. And then I do have a web series that's going to be coming out in the coming months called Vegan Please, which is super, super cute. Essentially, it's like Sex in the City, but with vegans in Minnesota and with hot dish instead of sex. And that has an Instagram where you'll actually be able to watch the episodes. They're going to be short episodes. And that Instagram is Vegan Please TV.
Awesome.
We will link those in the description of this here podcast.
Thanks, y'all.
Yeah. Amelia, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Shake Meets World on Instagram and Fuck the Perfect Life. Please hire me so I can get out of my job. Anyway,
you can find me at Ablacksparrow most places. I want to redo my website at some point, but that has been postponed indefinitely. So SherrickRobinson.com, Ablacksparrow.com. I've been posting to TikTok and Twitch and Instagram more often, although I didn't really have anything interesting to post this week for my standards, but I'll get back to it. Yeah, so I guess we've hit the limit on your voicemail.
Sorry if we talk too long.
So next week, I'll talk about how we only like the other Outback Steakhouse that's in town. Okay, bye!
Bye!